Some people don't leave. They just slowly drain you, one boundary at a time. What if the people you've known the longest are the very ones keeping you from peace, purpose, and healing? This is the season to let go of guilt, silence the noise, and finally protect the life God has been calling you to live. As we grow older, something begins to shift deep within us. We no longer crave the noise or the chaos we once tolerated. Instead, we start to cherish peace over volume, clarity over confusion, and authenticity over mere bloodlines. But here's a truth many people are too afraid to say out loud. Sometimes, the most dangerous people in your later years are the ones you've known the longest. Yes, even your own family. Let's begin with one type of person you absolutely must avoid as you age: the guilt tripper. And I want you to really hear this, not just with your ears, but with your heart wide open. Because guilt doesn't always come dressed like a threat. It can come wrapped in affection. It can sound like concern. It can wear the familiar mask of family. But make no mistake, when guilt is used as a tool of manipulation, it becomes poison, pure, and simple. The guilt tripper doesn't need to raise their voice. They don't shout, they whisper. They sigh. They wield silence like a blade. You set a boundary, you say no, and suddenly, you're labeled ungrateful, selfish, cold. All because you finally dared to say, "I can't do that anymore," or "I need some time for myself." And if you're not mindful, you could spend your golden years apologizing for simply existing. These are the people who make you feel like you owe them something for growing older, that your very presence is a burden. The manipulation is subtle, but it cuts deep. It might sound like, "Well, I guess I'll just handle it myself since you're too busy," or "I took care of you once. Look at how you treat me now." But let me say this, and hold on to it tightly: your life is not a debt to be repaid. Not to your children, not to your siblings, not even to your lifelong friends. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone your health. And you most certainly don't owe anyone the last bits of your strength, just so they can feel superior or stay in control. That's not love. That's manipulation disguised in emotional currency. The older you become, the more sacred your time becomes. And guilt trippers? They're expert time thieves. They'll drag you into conversations that leave you drained, into obligations that leave you empty, into relationships that leave you doubting your own value. They'll say things like, "If you really loved me, you would do this." But listen closely. Love is not proven by self-sacrifice. Love is not measured by how much of yourself you abandon. You don't prove love by shrinking. You prove it by standing in your truth. What's even more dangerous? Guilt trippers are masters at gaslighting. They train you to doubt your own reality. You begin to ask yourself, "Am I being selfish? Am I really not doing enough?" And that's how they win, by keeping you tethered to their emotional leash. But here's the good news. Freedom begins the moment you recognize manipulation for what it is. Especially in this season of life, you don't have time to be controlled. You need room to breathe, space to reflect, permission to simply be. You've spent a lifetime showing up for others, raising children, supporting your family, giving and giving and giving. Now, it's time to reclaim what's left of your energy. For you, not to become bitter, not to become cold, but to become free. Now, I know some may find these words harsh, especially in cultures where family is everything. But hear me clearly. I'm not telling you to walk away from everyone who's difficult. I'm telling you to protect yourself from those who weaponize guilt. That's not love. That's control, cleverly disguised as care. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to disappoint the expectations that were never healthy to begin with. So let me say it again, and let it land this time. Just because someone is your family doesn't mean they are healthy for your spirit. In this chapter of life, you are no longer responsible for carrying the weight of everyone else's healing. In the last part, we talked about how guilt can be disguised as love, and how protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. Now, let's take that one step further. You are not born to be someone's referee, therapist, or emotional punching bag. You're here to live, fully, freely, and finally, without apology. You don't have to explain your boundaries to people who never intended to respect them. You don't owe anyone a presentation or permission slip just to protect your peace. You simply need to claim it. And you can, because you've earned it. You earned it through the storms you weathered, through heartbreaks that nearly broke you, through nights you stayed up giving when you had nothing left to give, through the years you swallowed your truth just to keep the peace. Every sacrifice carved that right into your soul. This peace isn't just a luxury, it's the reward you pay for with your life. Don't trade it away for guilt. Because real love, true love, doesn't ask you to surrender your peace for its comfort. It doesn't demand. It respects. It honors. It creates space for you to breathe. It never guilts you into silence or submission. So from now on, be careful. Guilt trippers don't always come wearing frowns. They often arrive with warm smiles, soft tones, and familiar faces. But if your soul feels heavier every time they walk away, pay attention to that. Your spirit always knows when it's being dragged down. And if you ever need a reminder that it's okay to say no, here it is. Saying no to them is saying yes to yourself. That's a trade you should never hesitate to make. Now, let's talk about another kind of person you need to slowly, gently start backing away from. The constant complainers, the never satisfied critics. The ones I like to call energy vampires. You know exactly who I mean. These are the people who could win the lottery and still say the numbers weren't high enough. The sun could be shining, and they'd grumble that it's too bright. You might be having the most peaceful day, then they show up with a dark cloud hanging over their head, trying to pull you beneath it. And in your later years, energy becomes sacred. You don't have the endless reserves you once had, and that's okay. It just means you have to be wise about where you spend it and who you spend it on. But energy vampires, they don't care about that. They'll talk for hours about everything wrong in their world, never once asking how you are, never checking in on your heart. And what's worse, they're not looking for solutions. They don't want to feel better. They want company in their misery. They drain you not with screaming or shouting, but with a slow, steady drip of negativity. It's subtle, it's constant, and it's exhausting. One call, one visit, one conversation. That's all it takes, and suddenly your whole day feels heavier. You feel anxious, irritated, off balance, and you're not even sure why. That's how it works. They offload their emotional baggage onto you, then walk away lighter, while you are left carrying bags you never packed. So let me say this clearly. You were not put on this earth to be someone's emotional landfill. You were not created to soak up everyone's darkness at the cost of your own light. That is not your role, especially not now. And yes, I know, some of these people may be close to you. Maybe it's a sibling, a neighbor, a lifelong friend, maybe even one of your own children. That makes it harder. But just because someone has a chapter in your life doesn't mean they get to write your ending. If they cannot bring peace into your space, if all they do is drain, complain, and criticize, then it is not only okay, it is necessary to create distance. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Because your emotional well-being matters now more than ever, and you no longer have the time or the desire to keep pouring yourself out for people who only ever take. Ever notice how you feel smaller after being around certain people? Like your mood drops, your hope shrinks, and your clarity fades? That's not your imagination. That's the erosion of your peace happening in real time. That's what constant negativity does. And it adds up. Some people have spent so many years complaining, they don't even realize they're doing it anymore. It's their identity, their comfort zone, their default lens. And if you stay close long enough, they'll start convincing you to see the world that way too. Which leads us straight into the next type of influence you need to be aware of in your later years. Because not all negativity is loud. Some of it comes in quiet, smiling disguises. In the last part, we looked at how constant complainers, those emotional energy vampires, don't just drain you, they slowly reshape your reality. Now, let's go a little deeper into the quiet damage that negativity causes when you let it stay too long. You see, the real danger isn't just that these people weigh you down. It's that, over time, they start to mold you. Their bitterness bleeds into your outlook. Their complaints become the background noise in your own mind. And before you even realize it, you begin to carry their emotional weight, as if it were yours to begin with. But you deserve better. You deserve to be surrounded by people who lift you, not people who drain you. People who challenge you with love, not resentment. People who speak life, not just remind you of loss. You deserve companions who still see beauty in the world, even when it's messy. And if you don't have that kind of energy in your circle, then maybe it's time to tighten that circle. Let me tell you something most people never say out loud. Peace is louder than noise. It doesn't need to make a scene. It doesn't need to prove itself. But when it's missing, you feel it in your body, in your mind, and deep in your spirit. To protect your peace is to protect your energy. And to protect your energy, you must create distance from those who treat your presence like a dumping ground for their dysfunction. You are not required to answer every phone call. You are not obligated to listen to every complaint. You are not responsible for carrying burdens they refuse to release themselves. It's not rude to protect your peace. It's not unkind to say, "I love you, but I can't carry this with you today." That's not selfish. That's wisdom. That's maturity. That's self-preservation. There comes a point in life when you simply must stop apologizing for choosing peace. Stop explaining why silence feels better than someone else's chaos. Stop feeling guilty for refusing to get pulled back into endless cycles of complaints and criticism. Because the truth is, you've outgrown all of that. And you should be proud of it. You are stepping into a season of life that calls for healing, for stillness, for deep reflection, and for joy. Not drama, not dysfunction, not emotional tug-of-war. You've already carried enough. You've sacrificed enough. Now your energy is sacred. Guard it like treasure. So the next time the complainers come calling, the next time the critics reach for your peace, remember this moment. Remember what you've outgrown. And protect your energy like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Now let's go a little deeper into a space that might hit even closer to home. Because the next group of people, they sting for a different reason. I'm talking about those who only show up when they need something. The users. The ones who treat your love like a convenience store, only dropping by when they're low and walking out the second they're full again. Previously, we talked about the kind of people who only show up when they need something. How they treat your love like a pit stop and your heart like a vending machine. Now, let's look closer at the cost of letting those kinds of relationships linger too long. Because these people, they don't just take your money, your time, or your help. They take something far more valuable, your presence, your peace of mind, your emotional energy. They drain your patience until there's nothing left, and leave you emptier than before they arrived. And they always seem to come with a story, don't they? A reason. an excuse, a heartfelt promise that this time will be different. And for a brief moment, you want to believe them. You want to believe that maybe they've changed. That maybe, just maybe, they're here for you, not just for what you can give. But then it happens again. You give, they take. And the moment their crisis is over, they vanish, just like before. What's dangerous is how this pattern wears you down. Not in one dramatic event. No, it's slower than that. A quiet erosion. A steady leak. One drop of energy at a time. You begin to feel guilty for setting boundaries. You question whether you're being too harsh, too cold, too unavailable. But deep down, in that quiet part of your soul, you already know the truth. You're being used. And it hurts. There's a silence that follows those encounters. A hollow, echoing stillness. Not the kind that heals, but the kind that reminds you. They weren't there for you. They were there for what you could provide. And if you lean into that silence, really listen to it, it will teach you something powerful. You deserve more than being someone's backup plan. You deserve more than being someone's emotional ATM. You deserve people who pour into you, not just when it's convenient, but regularly, with presence, love, and honesty. Yes, it's hard to let go of people you've loved. People you've prayed for, cried with, and carried for years. But you must ask yourself, what is this relationship costing me? Not just financially, emotionally, spiritually. Am I constantly being left drained? Am I being respected or just used? And don't be surprised when those same people call you selfish the moment you stop catering to their needs. That's their tactic. That's how the cycle stays alive. Because if they can guilt you, they can use you. But the moment you stop performing, the moment you choose peace over people-pleasing, that's when their mask slips. That's when they reveal who they really are. And when that moment comes, let it. Let them twist the story. Let them be upset. Let them walk away. But you stay rooted in your truth. Because you were not made to be used. You were made to be loved. At this point in life, you don't need people who keep score. You don't need people who only remember you when things fall apart. You need people who think of you in joy, in stillness, on the quiet, ordinary days. People who love you not for what you do, but for who you are. You've given enough. Now it's your time to receive. Not just respect, but reciprocity. Real mutual care. And that begins the moment you stop allowing yourself to be someone's emotional vending machine. So the next time someone only knocks when they need a favor, the next time they stretch out a hand for help but never offer one to hold, remember this: if their love disappears the moment your resources run out, then it was never love to begin with. And now, let's talk about one of the most subtle but most suffocating types of people in your life. The ones who don't raise their voice, but still try to run your life. Yes, it's time we talk about the controllers. In the last section, we touched on one of the most subtle and suffocating influences in your life, the controllers. The ones who don't shout, but still try to run your life under the quiet disguise of care. Now, let's take a deeper look at how they show up, and why their presence can be so damaging if left unchecked. Controllers don't all look or sound the same. Some are loud, direct, and constantly pushing, always telling you how you should think, feel, or act. But others, they're much quieter, more polished. They don't try to overpower you with volume. They try to override you with persuasion. Not because they think you're incapable, but because your independence threatens their illusion of control. So they offer advice you never asked for. They share opinions you didn't need. They apply pressure in soft, subtle ways that solely make you question what you already knew in your gut. You know the type. You say you want to travel, And they respond, "That's not safe at your age." You mention downsizing your home, and they chime in, "You're not thinking clearly." You talk about giving something away, and suddenly it's, "Don't do that. What if you need it?" It's a constant drip of doubt. It sounds like concern. But let's be clear, it's not concern. It's control. And that control, it can make you feel like a visitor in your own life, like a child being managed, not an adult being respected. But let me remind you of something powerful. Age does not erase your ability to make decisions. It sharpens it. You've lived through seasons that others couldn't even imagine. Wars, recessions, losses, births, grief, healing. You've been shaped by struggle and softened by joy. You've earned the right to say, "I know what I want, and I trust myself to choose it." Anyone who tries to silence that voice isn't helping you. They're handling you. And you, my friend, are not someone who needs to be handled. What makes this even more painful is that the controller is often someone you love deeply. A child who thinks they're protecting you. A spouse who fears change. A close friend who believes they know you better than you know yourself. Because their voice is familiar, you start to listen. You start to second guess. You shrink, not because you wanted less, but because someone else decided you couldn't handle more. But here's a truth worth writing on your heart. It is not your job to live a life that makes other people comfortable. It is your job to live a life that feels right in your spirit. And if that means disappointing those who think they know better, so be it. Your truth is not up for debate. Your freedom isn't something you have to earn again and again. You already paid for it, with years of sacrifice, experience, and wisdom. And don't let anyone confuse your need for support with a need for supervision. Yes, we all need help. That's human. But needing help doesn't mean handing someone the keys to your entire life. It means inviting them in as a partner, not surrendering to them as a warden. Controllers will often act hurt or offended when you push back. They'll say things like, "I'm just trying to look out for you." But remember this. There's a difference between looking out for someone and trying to control them. One comes from love. The other comes from fear. And you've lived far too much life to let someone else's fear dictate your direction. You deserve to be surrounded by people who trust your voice. People who celebrate your choices. People who believe in your ability to lead your own life. Because let's be honest, if they haven't trusted you by now, what more do you really need to prove? You don't need anyone's approval stamp to live your life. You just need people who are willing to walk beside you, not over you. And yes, for some of you, this will require hard conversations. It will sound like, "I love you, but I'm going to make this decision on my own." It will feel like letting go of the need to be understood and choosing instead to be respected. That takes courage. But it's the kind of courage that unlocks true freedom. So if someone is trying to put you in a box, if they're parenting you when all you really need is partnership, if they're making your dreams feel foolish or unreachable, stand tall. Because this life, it's still yours to live. Now, let's talk about one final kind of person you need to watch out for in the season of life. They may not try to control you, but they can pull you backward all the same. These are the ones who refuse to grow. In the last section, we reflected on the importance of reclaiming your voice from those who tried to manage your life. But there's another influence that can quietly suffocate your spirit: those who refuse to grow. You know the feeling. When you're around them, it's as if time stops, or worse, rewinds. Their world feels small. Their thinking is rigid. Their hearts close tight. And if you're not careful, their stagnation becomes your prison. Their limits start to shape your own. These are the ones who gossip endlessly but never reflect inward. They talk constantly about what others are doing wrong, but never pause to ask, what do I need to change? They act like they've got life figured out, but beneath the surface, they're terrified of change. Because change demands honesty, and honesty demands courage. But let me tell you something that might just set you free. Growth doesn't stop when your hair turns gray. In fact, it becomes even more essential the older you get. Why? Because in this chapter of life, you're not just looking back. You're preparing for something deeper. You're longing for peace, clarity, and a sense of legacy. You want to live with meaning, not just memory. But you cannot step into that kind of freedom if you're still tethered to people who refuse to evolve. People who still argue over petty things. Who still carry 20-year-old grudges like war medals. People who treat offense like an identity badge, when in truth, it's become their anchor. And if you let them, they'll drag you into the same tired conversations, the same recycled arguments, the same mindsets that lead nowhere. But here's the truth. It is not your job to drag people forward who've chosen to stand still. I know that may sound harsh, but listen carefully. Your soul wasn't meant to be trapped inside someone else's emotional immaturity. Just because you share history with someone doesn't mean you owe them your future. There are people who will look at you and say you've changed. And you know what? That might be the greatest compliment you'll ever receive. Because if you're not changing, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're slowly fading, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. But those who are stuck don't want to see you evolve. Your growth threatens their comfort. Your peace exposes their unrest. Your healing shines a light on the healing they've avoided for years. Sometimes the hardest people to walk away from are the ones who've been in your life the longest. Not because they bring life to you, but because they've become familiar. They've become routine. But here's the truth. Familiarity is not a reason to stay stuck. You can love someone from a distance. You can honor the past without dragging it behind you. You can cherish the story without being held hostage by it. I've seen it too many times, elders who are wise in age, but stagnant in spirit. They're full of stories, but empty of insight. They can tell you what happened, but not what it meant. They can list their regrets, but not what they learned. That's not wisdom. That's just memory. And memory without meaning will keep you spinning in circles. But you didn't come this far to run in circles. You came this far to find peace, to find rest, to pass on something deeper than tales. You came to pass on truth. But you cannot do that while dragging the weight of people who refuse to reflect, who refuse to heal, who refuse to let go. Their chaos will become your chaos. Their pain will become your prison. And slowly, you'll find yourself watering dead plants, waiting on change that was never going to come. Let me say something difficult, but necessary. Some people are not interested in becoming better. They're only interested in being right. And if you're not careful, you will waste the best years of your final chapter trying to convince someone of something their heart is not willing to receive. That's not your calling. Your role is not to carry grown adults to emotional growth they refuse to do. Your role now? To walk in peace. To keep growing. To surround yourself with others who are committed to growing too. Find people who are curious, not just opinionated. People who are open, not just loud. People who are seeking healing, not rehearsing pain. And when you do, you'll notice something inside you begin to shift. You'll feel lighter, more grounded, more alive. Because growth always makes room for more. But staying around those who refuse to grow, that suffocates your spirit. Now, as we begin to bring this message home, there's one final reminder I want to leave with you. A truth that may change the way you see everything you've been through, and everything that's still ahead. Previously, We explored how surrounding yourself with people who refuse to grow can slowly suffocate your spirit. Now, let's take a closer look at one more kind of relationship you need to protect yourself from, especially in this sacred, reflective season of life. Because your spirit, it deserves relationships that feel like fresh air, not heavy fog. You deserve to be around people who challenge you with love, not control you with fear. And if that means shrinking your circle, so be it. A small, sacred circle rooted in truth and growth will always be more valuable than a large one filled with noise, numbness, and shallow connection. So when you find yourself surrounded by people who haven't moved an inch, emotionally or spiritually, people still holding tight to decades-old bitterness, still blaming the world, still clinging to the same worn-out narratives, let this next truth settle deep within you. There's one more kind of person you must begin to lovingly distance yourself from. Especially now. Especially in this chapter of life that calls for depth and reflection. And that is, the ones who mock your faith. These are not just people who believe differently. No, this is deeper than that. These are people who actively belittle the very thing that's carried you through the darkest nights. The ones who roll their eyes when you mention God, who scoff at your prayers, dismiss your convictions, and treat your faith like it's nothing more than a fairy tale. It's not about theological differences. It's about disrespect. About people who take joy in tearing down what you've spent a lifetime building your soul upon. Let me be clear. Faith is not weakness. Faith is strength. It's the reason you're still standing. The reason you made it through pain that should have broken you. It's what held you together when others fell apart. It's what whispered, "Keep going," when everything else told you to give up. Anyone who mocks that, anyone who treats it as foolishness, is not someone you need close to your spirit. Not now. Not when the questions in your heart have grown deeper. Not when your reflections are heavier, and your gaze is turned toward eternity, purpose, and meaning beyond what can be touched or seen. Because in this chapter of life, you're no longer counting years, you're measuring meaning. And in that sacred space, you need people who speak life, not sarcasm. Who may not walk your path, but at the very least, respect it. Some people are so rooted in cynicism that they cannot help but scoff at anything they don't understand. They'll make you feel silly for praying. They'll make you feel small for believing in something greater. They'll mock the very thing that's been your anchor. And if you let them stay too close, their doubt will start to creep into your spirit, not because they're right, but because their voice is relentless. Don't let it happen. Don't let their sarcasm shrink your faith. Don't let their clever jokes plant seeds of shame in your soul. Because here's the truth. Faith is not fragile. It's fire. It's the flame that's kept you alive. It's what held your family together. It's what healed your heart time and time again. Faith doesn't make you naive. It makes you grounded. It makes you wise. And anyone who can't see that isn't looking with the right eyes. And yes, some of these people might be close. A friend you've known for decades. A family member who's grown cold over the years. Maybe even one of your own children who now sees belief as weakness and calls your faith old stories. And yes, you still love them. You always will. But just because you love someone doesn't mean you have to let them dishonor what matters most to you. This isn't about arguments. It's not about converting anyone. It's about protecting the soil of your soul. Because whatever peace you carry now, you fought for it. You bled for it. You cried for it. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for why you believe, who you pray to, or what gives you hope when the darkness rolls in. You know what's real. You've walked through valleys most will never understand. You've felt the hand of God when no one else could reach you. You've heard His voice in the silence. You've seen His grace when you least deserved it. And I don't care how educated, successful, or enlightened someone claims to be. If they haven't walked through your valley, they don't get to laugh at your light. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is love someone from a distance. You can still pray for them. You can still hope the best for them. But you don't have to let them poison your peace. And now, as we move into the final part of this message, let's talk about how to hold on to your light and live the rest of your life with the peace you've earned. In the previous section, we talked about guarding your faith, how mockery, even when disguised as casual conversation or passive sarcasm, can quietly shake your foundation. Now, let's dig a little deeper into the kind of energy you must learn to step away from. Because your peace is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. Let's be clear, it's not always about the words they say out loud. Sometimes, it's the energy they carry. The smirks, the eye rolls, the passive-aggressive remarks that seem harmless, but slowly chip away at your spirit. Little by little, they make you question what was once rock solid inside you. But you deserve more than that. You deserve to be surrounded by people who honor your walk, even if they don't share it. People who are willing to sit beside you in your truth, not poke holes in it like it's some kind of game. Because at the end of the day, we all leave this place. Every single one of us. And when that moment comes, what will matter won't be how many debates you won, how many people agreed with you, or who laughed at your faith. What will matter is how much peace you carried, how deeply you loved, how boldly you believed. I want that peace for you. Not because life is perfect, not because everyone around you understands, but because your soul is anchored, firm, steady, and full of quiet confidence. Because you didn't let sarcasm steal your reverence. Because you held on to your faith, even when it would have been easier to let go. So the next time someone mocks what you believe, whether they do it through jokes, silence, or subtle dismissal, remember this. You don't need their agreement to stay close to God. You just need the courage to protect your faith like the treasure it is. And now, let me tell you something else. Something that becomes clearer the older you get. Life has a way of revealing people's true colors. And old age? That's when the masks finally fall away. You see, when you're young, strong, busy, running here and there, doing things for others, everyone seems to love you. They smile at you. They praise you. They act like they cherish you. But the moment you begin to slow down, the moment you need them more than they need you, that's when the truth shows up. That's when you learn who truly loves you, and who was only there for the benefits. Because there comes a time in life when you can no longer afford to be surrounded by the ungrateful and entitled, even if they share your blood. Ungrateful people are never satisfied. It doesn't matter what you've done or how much you've given. It's never enough. You raised them. You sacrificed for them. You gave them your best years. And still, they act like it meant nothing. They walk into your home, take what they want, and leave without a single thank you. They call only when they need something. They speak to you with impatience, as if your presence is an inconvenience. My friend, do not be fooled. That is not love. Love is not just about shared blood. It's shown in honor, in respect, in gratitude. Some of you gave your everything, to your children, to your family, to your friends. You put their dreams above your own. You gave when you had little. You forgave when they didn't deserve it. And now, in your later years, you look around, and the very people you sacrificed for seem to have no time for you. You call, they don't answer. You ask for help, they act like you're a burden. When you were strong, they leaned on you. Now that you're tired, they turn their backs. But hear me clearly. Your worth is not defined by their recognition. Your value is not tied to their appreciation or lack of it. Ungrateful people have a dangerous habit. They rewrite history. They forget the nights you stayed up, the double shifts you worked, the moments you gave up your own needs to meet theirs. They remember what you didn't do, but conveniently forget all that you did. And if you're not careful, you will spend your golden years trying to prove your worth to people who've already decided to ignore it. Let me warn you, entitled people will drain you. They'll take your kindness and ask for more. They'll use your love against you. They'll twist your generosity into guilt and make you feel bad for not giving more, even when they've given you nothing in return. But here's the truth you must hold tight in the season of life. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why he chose to protect your heart. In the last part, we spoke about ungrateful hearts. Those who only show up when it benefits them, never when you need them. Now, let's take that truth one step further, because at some point, peace must become your priority, not your plea. If someone cannot appreciate your presence, then let them feel the weight of your absence. There comes a moment, often painful, always necessary, when you must stop begging people to see your worth. If they couldn't honor you when you were strong, don't expect them to suddenly respect you when you're weary. Some of you are sitting in sorrow, grieving relationships that God has already been trying to release from your life. You're crying over people who don't even care that you're hurting. You're holding on to family members who, in their hearts, let go of you long ago. It's time to wake up. It's time to stop searching for love in places where all that exists is utility. This is the season in your life when you must guard your peace like the treasure it is. Don't waste another drop of energy on people who have no gratitude in their hearts. Don't chase after those who are comfortable pretending you don't exist. Love should never be begged for. Respect should never have to be demanded. And hear this clearly. Family is more than DNA. It's not just who you share blood with. It's who shows up for you, who honors you, who sees you. Blood may make you related, but loyalty, that's what makes you family. And when you begin to release the ungrateful and entitled from your life, something incredible happens. You start to breathe again. You find joy in the small, ordinary moments. You discover that peace is worth far more than proximity. See, sometimes we think we need certain people, but what we actually need is the freedom from the weight they bring. Let go of the ones who make you feel invisible. Let go of those who cause you to question your worth. Let go of the ones who keep reminding you, intentionally or not, that you're only valued when you're useful. You have given enough. You've sacrificed more than enough. Now is the time to surround yourself with people who love you for you. Not for what you do, not for what you offer, but simply because of who you are. There comes a point, especially in this chapter of life, when protecting your peace becomes your highest priority, your most sacred responsibility. You no longer have the energy to fight battles that were never yours. You don't have the time to entertain negativity that drains your spirit. But sadly, some people thrive on that. They wake up angry, searching for something to complain about, someone to blame, some story to twist. They carry a storm with them wherever they go. And if you're not vigilant, they'll drag you right into it. Because negativity, it spreads like wildfire. It's contagious. You could be having a peaceful, grateful day. Then one phone call, one encounter with a bitter spirit, can steal all of it from you. They'll bring up every wrong thing that's ever happened. They'll dig up the past, rehearse the pain, and poison your present with what should have been buried long ago. And if you're not careful, you'll start carrying burdens that never belonged to you in the first place. The truth is, some people don't want to heal. Their identity is tangled in their pain. Their bitterness has become their shield, their excuse, their reason to stay stuck. They don't know who they are without it. So when they see you trying to live in peace, they don't like it. They'll try to pull you into their misery. Because if they can't be happy, they don't want you to be either. That's why you must be careful. Be careful who you give your ear to. Be careful who you allow to speak into your life. Because some people don't offer advice, they offer poison. They don't give solutions, they repeat the problem. They don't bring light, they dim it. And in this stage of life, you don't have time for that. You need people who lift you up, not those who pull you down. You need people who speak life into your soul, not those who drain the light from it. Because unchecked negativity, it warps your vision. It makes you see enemies where there are none. It makes you suspicious of kind people. It convinces you to hold on to wounds that should have been healed, and offenses that should have been forgiven. It robs you of joy. It steals your rest. And it keeps you up at night, replaying old stories that no longer deserve your energy. In the last part, we uncovered how negativity, especially when repeated and rehearsed, can poison your peace and weigh down your spirit. Now, let's look even deeper at the people who carry bitterness like a badge, and the toll it takes when you keep trying to carry them. There are some things that should have been released years ago. But some people, they're still holding on. Still angry about something that happened decades ago. Still blaming others for a life they chose to stay stuck in. Still rehearsing pain instead of pursuing healing. And if you're not careful, that bitterness can begin to infect you. Because they don't want to change. They want to complain. They're not looking for growth. They're looking for someone to agree with their misery. And if you stay in their space long enough, they'll convince you to stay stuck right there with them. That's why you must make a bold decision. Decide that your peace is more important than their approval. Walk away from conversations that serve no purpose other than to stir up old wounds and breed new ones. Step back from arguments that only reopen scars instead of healing them. Because at this stage of your life, you don't have the time or the energy to waste on anger that leads nowhere, on conflicts that bring no closure, on bitterness that only ends up hurting you the most. Some of you are carrying emotional weight that doesn't even belong to you. You've got people in your life who only call when they want to gossip, when they want to vent, when they want to rehearse every disappointment of the past. And you've tolerated it for so long. You don't even realize how heavy it's made you. You're carrying their offenses, their resentment, their bitterness. And then you wonder, why do I feel so drained? It's because their negativity has been sitting on your soul like a stone. And that weight was never yours to carry. So let it go. Let them go. Let the bitterness go. Let the resentment go. Let the need to defend yourself go. You don't have to be part of every fight. You don't have to respond to every insult. You don't have to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Protect your peace. Guard your joy. Surround yourself with people who speak life. People who encourage you, who pray for you, who remind you of all the good that still exists. People who pour hope into your soul, not just frustration into your ears. This is your time to live free, to wake up with a heart that feels light, to enjoy the moments God is still giving you right now. Don't waste another second letting someone else's bitterness decide your happiness. Because peace is too rare to let anyone steal it from you. And now, there's one more type of person you must become deeply cautious of, especially in this vulnerable season of life. They come with a smile, but their heart is focused on what they can take. They know the right words to say, but their intentions are far from pure. These are the manipulators, the self-seeking ones, the ones who don't see you as a person to love, but as a resource to use. And they come in many forms. Some are friends, some are family, some may even be people you've helped the most. And yet, they have no hesitation in taking advantage of your kindness. Because manipulation doesn't always come in loud demands. No, the best manipulators are subtle. They make you feel guilty for having boundaries. They make you second guess whether it's selfish to say no. They remind you of all you've done for them. Not to express gratitude, but to open the door for more. They use emotional tactics, tears, silence, even anger, not to connect with your heart, but to control your choices. They want you to feel responsible for their moods, for their poor decisions, for their happiness. But hear me clearly. You are not responsible for carrying someone else's selfishness on your back. Some of you have spent years being drained by people who only show up when they need something. They never call to check on you. They never ask how you are. They never sit down just to enjoy your presence. No, the only time you hear from them is when they need a favor, when they need money, when they want you to fix a mess they made. And because you have a kind heart, because you've always shown up, they expect you to say yes, every time. But let me ask you this. Who is there for you? Who calls just to say I love you? Who checks in and says I appreciate you? I'm here for you. If you can't think of many, then maybe it's time to ask yourself, have you surrounded yourself with givers or just takers? Because those who manipulate you, they're not invested in your well-being. They're only interested in what they can extract. And as we head into the final part of this message, let's talk about how to break free from that cycle for good, so you can finally walk in the freedom, the dignity, and the peace that has always been yours to claim. We talked about manipulators, those who disguise selfishness with sweet words and use your kindness for their gain. But here's the next truth you must face. Sometimes, the most powerful shift in your life comes the moment you finally say no. Some people will act like they love you. They will pretend to care. But the moment you stop giving, the moment you stop meeting their endless demands, their true colors begin to show. And as painful as that moment may be, it can also be the best thing that ever happens to you. Because it finally sets you free. It reveals who is really for you, and who was only in it for what they could take from you. This chapter of life requires a new kind of clarity. You must stop pouring into people who never pour back into you. Stop answering calls that leave you feeling emotionally empty. Stop rescuing those who wouldn't lift a finger if you needed saving. You can't keep setting yourself on fire just to keep others warm. You can't keep giving from a soul that's already worn thin. Here's the truth. When you start saying no, some people will get angry. When you stop letting yourself be used, some will call you selfish. But listen closely. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not wrong for refusing to be manipulated. You are not cruel for expecting to be treated with the same kindness you so freely give. Because here's a simple reality. The only people who get offended by your boundaries are the ones who benefited from you having none. So be careful with those who only show up when they need something. Be mindful of those who love you only when you're useful. Because love should never be conditional. And family should never be transactional. If someone cannot value you when you have nothing to give, they never truly valued you to begin with. This is your time to surround yourself with people who love you, not what you provide. People who check on you just because they care, not because they need a favor. People who make you feel appreciated, not obligated. You deserve that. You deserve peace. You deserve to enjoy the years ahead without carrying the weight of those who see your kindness as an opportunity to take. Let them go. Let the takers walk away. Let the guilt trippers find someone else to control. Let the ones who were never really for you be removed. Because you're not losing them. They're losing you. Now, let's talk about another painful truth. One that many won't admit until they've experienced it. There are people in your life who never seem to be happy for you. No matter what you achieve, no matter how blessed you are, No matter how much joy you try to share, they always find a way to diminish it. These are the ones who can't celebrate your victories, because your success makes them feel like failures. You smile, and they frown. You rise, and they resent. You share your joy, and they downplay it. These are the jealous, the envious. And jealousy is dangerous. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it hides behind forced smiles and hollow congratulations. Sometimes it comes out in little jabs, disguised as backhanded compliments. You mention something good, and they respond with, "Must be nice." Or, "Well, some people have all the luck." It sounds harmless, but over time, it wears you down. You begin to notice they don't really want to see you win. And the thing about jealous people, they were never truly for you. They may have stood beside you when you were struggling, but the moment you start rising, the moment your life begins to shift for the better, their energy changes. They become distant. They stop calling. Or worse, they begin trying to pull you back down. They try to discourage you, undermine your joy, make you feel guilty for the very blessings God gave you. Some of you reading this, you already know exactly who I'm talking about. You've felt it. You've seen it. You've shared your good news, expecting excitement, and instead received cold silence. You worked hard to reach a goal, only to be met with indifference. And it hurts, doesn't it, to realize that someone you cared for, someone you thought was cheering for you, is actually rooting against you. We face the painful reality of envy, how some people can't handle your blessings because they're too wrapped up in their own bitterness. Now, let's talk about what to do with that truth and how to protect your joy in the face of it. First, understand this clearly. Your blessings are not up for debate. You don't have to shrink yourself to make someone else feel comfortable. You don't need to dim your light just so someone else doesn't feel insecure. You are not responsible for making your growth less threatening to others. What God has for you is for you. No amount of jealousy can steal it. No level of resentment can undo it. And you don't need anyone's approval to receive it. Jealousy can twist a person. It can make them do things they never imagined. It can turn friends into enemies. It can make family members act like strangers. It can lead to gossip, manipulation, and even lies. All because they can't stand to see you walking in favor. And the saddest part, they could have been blessed too. They could have chosen joy too. But instead of focusing on what God has for them, they're too busy being bitter about what He gave you. So what do? You distance yourself. You stop expecting support from those who refuse to give it. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing approval from those who secretly hope to see you fall. And when it's time, you let them go. Because here's the truth. Anyone who can't celebrate with you was never truly for you. And don't let them make you feel guilty. Some of you have been made to feel ashamed of your own success. You've been told you've changed. You've been accused of acting different. But let me tell you something important. Growth will always look like betrayal to those who refuse to grow with you. It is not your job to stay small so others can feel big. It is not your duty to remain in struggle so someone else doesn't feel left behind. If they truly loved you, they'd be clapping for you, not questioning you. So be careful. Be careful of the ones who only liked you when you were struggling. Be careful of the ones who supported you only when you stayed beneath them. Be careful of the ones who grow cold every time you step into a new blessing. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's envy. And you don't need that in your life. Let them talk. Let them watch. Let them feel uncomfortable. But under no circumstances should you let their insecurities stop your momentum. You've prayed too long. fought too many battles, sacrificed too much, to let someone else's small-mindedness rob you of your joy. So keep moving forward. Keep walking in favor. Keep becoming everything God created you to be, because the right people will cheer you on, and the wrong ones will quietly remove themselves. Now, let's talk about another kind of person to be mindful of in this season. The ones who carry a storm wherever they go. These are the chaotic, the unstable, the ones whose lives are a constant mess of drama, crisis, and emergencies. Every time they come around, there's another fire to put out, another crisis for you to fix. And no matter how many times you help them, no matter how much advice you give, nothing ever seems to change. For years, maybe even decades, you've played the role. You've answered the late-night phone calls. You've given the money. You've offered your time, your energy, your wisdom. But here's the hard truth. Some people don't want solutions. They want sympathy. They don't want freedom. They want attention. They don't want to grow. They want to stay in the struggle because it's become part of their identity. They would rather be the victim than take responsibility. And as long as you keep trying to rescue them, they will keep dragging you down. At some point, you must recognize it is not your job to fix them. It is not your responsibility to carry their burdens. It is not your calling to keep putting out fires they keep setting, because while you're spending all your time trying to save them. We uncovered a hard truth. The more you try to rescue people who live in chaos, the more your peace slips through your fingers. Now, it's time to talk about what happens when you finally say enough and start reclaiming your life. Because while you've been spending all your energy trying to keep them afloat, your own peace has been sinking. You've lost sleep over problems that were never yours. You've carried stress that didn't belong to you. You've been drained by people who have no intention of changing. And that is not your burden to bear. Yes, you can love them. You can pray for them. You can hope the best for them. But you cannot force someone to choose peace. You cannot make them leave their chaos behind. You cannot drag someone into healing if they're determined to stay broken. That's a journey they have to choose. And until they do, your role is to step back, protect your peace, refuse to be pulled into a cycle of dysfunction that never ends. Let them learn their lessons on their own timeline. And when you do pull away, they will try to make you feel guilty. They'll say, "You've abandoned me." They'll say, "You don't care anymore." They'll remind you of everything you've done for them. Not out of appreciation, but to manipulate you into doing it all over again. But hear me clearly. You are not wrong for protecting yourself. You are not heartless for choosing calm over chaos. You are not a bad person for refusing to stay trapped in someone else's storm. Some of you have spent years, sacrificing your well-being for people who refuse to take responsibility for their lives. You've let their stress become your stress, their mess your mission, their drama your daily burden. But there comes a time when you must say enough. A time to step away from those who won't grow. A time to choose peace over pressure, wisdom over weariness, and freedom over dysfunction. Because peace is priceless. There's nothing in this world more valuable than waking up without stress sitting on your chest, without chaos knocking on your door, without carrying the weight of problems that were never meant for your shoulders. You deserve that kind of peace. You deserve to live your days without feeling obligated to fix someone else's life, to move freely without being drained by people who never choose to grow. And if that means letting go, then let go. If that means saying no, then say it. If that means creating space, then create it. Your peace is worth protecting. Your joy is worth preserving. Your life is too precious to waste on people who refuse to take responsibility for their own. Let them go. Let them figure it out. Let them deal with the consequences of their choices. And you walk forward. In peace. In freedom. In the life God has called you to live. Whole, healed, and unburdened. But before we close this message, there's one more voice we must confront. A voice that doesn't always shout, but quietly shapes the way you see yourself. Because some of the most damaging storms don't come from others' chaos. They come from words. Words that didn't build you. Words that tore you down. Words that planted seeds of doubt in your heart. These are the voices of the critics. The negative ones. The ones who've made it their mission to remind you of your flaws, your past mistakes, your shortcomings. And if you've listened to them long enough, you've probably started to believe them. That you're not enough. That you're not capable. That you're somehow unworthy of the blessings in your life. But now it's time to break that cycle. We talked about the damage caused by the critical voices around you. Voices that tear down instead of build up. That feed doubt instead of courage. Now, let's talk about what it really means to silence those voices and finally step into who you were always meant to be. For far too long, some of you have allowed the wrong voices to linger in your life. You've let their opinions shape your confidence. You've let their doubts steer your direction. You've let their criticism keep you small and keep you from stepping fully into what God has already prepared for you. But it's time to stop. It's time to cut those voices off. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. Not everyone is qualified to speak into your journey. If their words only drain you, discourage you, or make you feel like you're less than who God created you to be, then you do not need to keep them around. You don't owe access to people who only speak defeat into your destiny. Because here's what happens when you keep listening to the wrong voices. You begin to live in fear. You start hesitating on things you were once excited about. You start questioning what you know God has placed in your heart. How many dreams have been abandoned because someone said that's impossible? How many callings have been ignored because someone said you're not good enough? How many blessings have been missed because someone whispered you don't deserve that? You cannot let those voices rule your life. You cannot give power to words that were never meant to build you. Instead, you must surround yourself with the right voices. The ones that lift you up. The ones that remind you of your strength. The ones that tell you to keep going when you want to quit. Because the right voices will speak life into you. They'll remind you that you are capable. That you are chosen. That you are loved. That you are enough. Even when you can't see it yourself, they will see the potential God planted in you. Now hear this. Cutting off negative voices doesn't make you bitter. It doesn't mean you're angry or unforgiving. It simply means you respect your peace enough to protect it. It means you honor your soul enough to guard it. It means you are finally choosing to listen to God's truth over people's opinions. Some of you have been carrying words that were never yours to carry. Words spoken in anger. Words born from jealousy. Words fueled by insecurity. But it's time to release them. It's time to stop replaying those old conversations in your head. Because you are not what they called you. You are not their insults. You are not the doubts they tried to attach to your name. You are who God says you are. And if that means walking away from certain relationships, then walk. If that means setting boundaries, set them. If that means distancing yourself from people who can't speak life into you, then don't hesitate. Your spirit is too valuable to be poisoned by someone else's brokenness. Your purpose is too sacred to be diminished by small-minded words. You've got a life to live, a purpose to fulfill, a destiny to step into. Don't let their words hold you back. Don't let their opinions dictate your future. Don't let their negativity steal one more moment of your joy. Tune them out, turn away, and tune into the voice of truth. Because when you do, you will find freedom, you will find strength, and you will finally walk in the fullness of everything God has planned for you. Life is too short to be weighed down by the wrong people. And as you grow older, your peace, your joy, and your well-being must become non-negotiables. There's no shame in guarding your heart, no guilt in protecting your mind, no regret in releasing relationships that leave you spiritually depleted. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into every season, and that's okay. Let go of those who bring chaos. Let go of those who manipulate. Let go of those who tear you down, refuse to grow, and speak only negativity over your life. Surround yourself with love, with wisdom, with truth, with people who speak life, not death, peace, not drama. Choose peace over dysfunction. Choose freedom over obligation. Walk forward with confidence, knowing that God's plan for you is far greater than any opinion spoken against you. Protect your soul, guard your heart, and step boldly into the purpose He has prepared for you. And in the final part of this message, let's bring everything together and remind you what it looks like to live free, walk in truth, and finish well.